Welcome, everyone. We got Wes here today. He completed his six-pack transformation and is going to share more about his progress throughout the program and his experience. So welcome, Wes.
Thanks, Mauro. I appreciate it.
Good to have you on. To get things started and really then transition more into details, can you share with everyone watching a little bit more about you, like age, height, weight, that people get the understanding and the foundation of what we were working on before we then go more into the fitness journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be glad to. So I am just turning 60 years old in July of this year. I started the program with you just about a year ago now. When I started, I'm still 6'2", but I'm 6'2". When I started, I was probably around 225 pounds. And now still 6'2", thankfully, but I'm down to around 185 to 190 now. So I mean, I'm very pleased with that progress. I've transitioned through the weight loss phase of your program. I'm now in a muscle building phase. So I'm definitely starting to see some of the beginning results of that as well. So in terms of aesthetics, I would say that's where I'm at, and I can certainly talk more about the way I feel and my energy level as well.
Awesome. That's already good to know. So let's roll back in time, July, July, June, summer 2022, before you started the Kinetic method. What would you say life was like there? How was the old Wes?
Sure. Sure. I mean, well, I was working still then. I'm still working now, but I would say then, I was taking much more sporadic attempts at trying to improve my overall physical fitness. I had done things like I had just completely cut out any sort of candy, soda, which seems kind of obvious, but like a lot of people, that had become a bad habit for me. So I just cut that stuff out and was trying to lose weight that way, which I did. I lost a few pounds, but I wasn't doing any sort of a fitness program. There was no nutritional balance. It was just keep doing everything I had been, but just stop eating candy. So I felt I didn't feel any better. I would see a little bit of weight loss, but it was never consistent. And I would say that I just felt not very energetic. I felt old, frankly. Again, I'm soon going to be 60, so some people would call that old. But I in my mind, I've never viewed that my age as being that of an old person, but I definitely was feeling old, and very low energy, not a lot of enthusiasm for things in general. I would say just kind of going through the day-to-day of life, getting through, and not really seeing any path to improving myself beyond just my financial state and living my life.
Yeah, let's talk about the CrossFit. I know that was like a big thing in your life. You're doing the CrossFit and kind of beating your body down. So you put in the effort, like a lot of guys who are 58, 59, they was like, it's age, it's done. Like I haven't been able to manage this area of my life since forever or since my entire adult life. But in your case, it wasn't like that. You were putting in the effort. The ROI just wasn't there with the CrossFit. What then, like when we had the chat, what had you then consider giving it up and changing?
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. I should have been a little more thorough in my earlier comment. So again, my first attempt had been, let's just try to eat a little better. lost a little weight, wasn't seeing anything else though. So my wife and I started going to CrossFit, and honestly, we were going 3 times a week, oftentimes 4 times a week, and I wasn't seeing any improvement in my physical shape at all. In fact, I felt like my belly was getting bigger. I don't know if that was true or if it was just my imagination, but and then along with that, I think the way I described it to you when I first met you is I felt like I just got hit by a car, all the time. All my joints ached. My right shoulder hurt so bad that I mean, there was oftentimes I couldn't sleep because it hurt so bad. Um, and so that's really when I started Googling just, you know, what CrossFit for a 50-plus-year-old man, that sort of stuff, and getting all sorts of varied opinions. And that's really when I found you. I saw a link somewhere, and where you had talked about one of your other clients that had also had a similar experience, had been going to CrossFit. I think he went 5 days a week, and so you and I were going back and forth messaging, and I shared that with you, and you said, hey, here's a picture of this guy, 5 days a week CrossFit guy. Here he is, and he didn't look very good, honestly. And then you're like, here he is after a year of being with me on the Kinetic method, and I was like, holy cow. I mean, honestly, I was skeptical. I thought that I was getting, maybe sold a bill of goods, but I was like, man, if I could even look half that good, I would be thrilled. And so that was, I mean, you and I am an extremely methodical personality, and so I ask 1,000 questions before I make a decision. And so you and I went back and forth, and you patiently answered all my questions, and then I ultimately decided to join your program. And yeah, I walked away from CrossFit, and I miss that culture. There was a great camaraderie in our CrossFit group, and I miss that. But I've actually gone back a couple of times to visit, and everybody in the CrossFit group comments about how good I look, and both how much weight I've lost, and they always ask me when I'm coming back, and I always give them sort of a non-committal answer because I'm having such good results doing what I'm doing now. But yeah, that was definitely a big part of my earlier experience. And I mean, the ROI is a good way to put it. I mean, based on based on the work out at CrossFit and the way I felt when I was done and the lack of results, I mean, the ROI was horrible.
Thank you for sharing and elaborating on that. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to bash CrossFit. I think they did a really good job at creating a culture, as you said, the community. So for people who are not doing nothing, it may be a good start, but as you get older, your recovery takes a lot longer for your body. It's just normal. Your hormones are differently, and more often than not, I hear the same story. I'm doing CrossFit, beat my body down, and you're hungry. Then you combine CrossFit with like low carb and keto, you're just asking for trouble, right? So I'm glad you were open-minded enough to ditch those workouts and make the switch, and obviously get the better ROI here.
Yeah, I definitely have.
If you look back over the last years, decades, from everything you've tried program wise, like diets, even the CrossFit and training, what would you say was different this time with the Kinetic method?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an easy answer for me. I mean, I would say that early on, I was always an athlete when I was younger. I was in the Marine Corps when I was younger. So I mean, I was in decent shape, but just as you start working and you age, you feel like you're doing okay, and then you continue to age and you slowly realize that you're not doing very well. And so I started working on, investigating different programs, talking to different people. And like I told you, I'm very, very methodical. So I would ask a lot of questions, and honestly, lots and lots of coaches, they're like, hey, we need to get you on a workout plan and restrict your calories, right? And they'll talk about macros, some. But the thing that really struck me when I met with you was you're like, listen, before we do anything, I need you to get your blood work done. And honestly, I had never heard that from anybody. The only time I've ever had my blood work done in 60 years, I mean, I'm not great about going to the doctor anyway, but the only time I'd ever had my blood work done was, on the rare occasion when I would go for my physical and my doctor would take my blood work and then he'd come back and tell me my cholesterol was too high. I mean, that was pretty much, the sum total process of my blood work. So when you wanted me to get it done, and then everything, so I did, and then everything I learned from that, and that was the big differentiator for me in the experience. At least I think there are actually a lot of things that set your program apart from others, but for me at the beginning, that was a very scientific approach, which really resonated with me, and I appreciated. And the other thing in that blood work that I thought was so interesting is there's what the medical association views as normal ranges for different blood markers, and then there are ranges for what I would say optimal performance are for those ranges, and they're dramatically different. And it really kind of, for me, it really kind of reinforced that aspect that the medical industry in the United States is really settling for average, not above average performance on anything. And so that to me was what really set this apart.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, Wes, with the medical association, or let's just say Western medicine, because as you said correctly, the range typically is like very big, broad, right. And what's going to happen is that the way they do it is they take like typically 120 males and they take the averages. But the issue is that 4 out of 5 men in the US are overweight or obese. So really your blood work is getting compared to a lot of sick patients. So you're right. treated to not be sick, but you're not treated to be fueled and optimized. And so that's where you look at the functional range and see, okay, yes, we have the medical range, but you cannot let it so big. It's kind of like if I told you, yeah, Wes, your ideal weight is between 120 and 200 pounds. Like they look at me, what did you just say? But if I say, Wes, you should be between 180 and 190, now we know, okay, we have a very specific target. And it's no different here. Like there's the wide range where you're just swimming, but where's the optimized range? Where's like the golden ratio where we know your body functions best? And how do you know it functions best? Well, you're the living proof. You're feeling better, you're healthier, and we're gonna get in new blood work and we'll see how close are you to these ranges. And that's really it. It's not really rocket science. Yes, it takes skill and knowing how to optimize those markers, but I don't believe anyone should settle for those markers, especially the older you get, the more important it is that you're fully optimized, especially your metabolic health.
Yeah, I mean, just the way I feel has been, I mean, I don't want to describe it like I feel like Superman. It's not like that, but just my general energy level and my comfort levels throughout the day and my general enthusiasm and for things has just increased so much, and I'm so thankful for that.
Well, you put in the work, so
yeah,
you got to thank yourself as well.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit more about the results. You touched on it: enthusiasm, energy, almost feeling like Superman, maybe Batman. Uh, what were some of the results or that you got from using and applying the kinetic method? Like maybe the weight loss, the physical, the outside aspect, but also the internal changes that you're feeling.
Um, yeah, I guess internally, um, again, I think my digestion has improved, dramatically, really. That's I had gotten to the point that I had started to, and it really just snuck up on me. I mean, like a lot of people, as I was younger, I could eat anything, and I never had any acid indigestion or anything like that. But as I would say over the last couple of years before I met you, it seemed like more and more I would end up having to take like in antacid tablets after a meal uh, for no reason, and I mean, it wasn't like I went and ate something really out of bounds, but so when I when I started following the nutrition plan that you had put forth, um, that really went away, and I honestly don't know if it was because I stopped overloading my system so badly, because you're not just eating everything that you see, um, or if it was the quality of food that I was. I mean, we've always eaten good quality food. My wife is very conscious of that, but it's definitely improved another level since working with you. But so for me, honestly, that I have not taken an antacid tablet in over a year, and I used to take 4 a day for the two
Wow.
years before that, and so that was just crazy to me. In terms of the nutrition, I wanted to say, my wife, I told you, goes to CrossFit with me as well, and she prepares most of our meals, and so she's really started to eat more along the lines of how you've guided me, and so it's interesting because she loves to go to CrossFit. She still goes, but she's actually lost like 20 pounds now. And I think that she would tell you as well that she attributes a lot of that um, to the nutrition changes that she's kind of taken on herself in her own diet because of the way that you've guided me. So it's been huge. I remember reading different times when I was younger and I was always looking for a solution. I'd read little anecdotes that said, your road to fitness begins in the kitchen, not the gym. And I was always like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm fine. But I think honestly, that's a big part of what I've seen is just that focus on my nutrition and my supplement plan has had such an impact here along with the workouts.
Beautiful. Yeah. You basically, and I'm so happy to hear also that your wife dropped 20 pounds just
Yeah.
along this journey. So good leadership on that. Because if you wouldn't have taken action and been so committed, then she would have not gotten those results. So you inspired her as well.
Yeah, that's true. And she's acknowledged that to me, and it's it's just it's been fantastic for both of us, really.
Awesome. What about the outside results? Like you talked about gut health, energy. Can you share maybe like some numbers in terms of weight loss, but also the body fat with the abs?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, when I started, I was at around 225 pounds. The lowest, I would, I mean, it started, this, right? I mean, you see a lot of weight loss early on, and then it starts to taper off. But now I bounce between 185 and 190. right? And that's been that way. And that's even as I mean, you've increased my caloric intake a few hundred calories as I've moved into this muscle building phase. And so even with those few hundred calories, I stay right there. Body fat wise, which has really been incredible. I think, and I've told you this, and for the audience, I mean, when I started, there's different ways to take your body fat at home. There's calipers and there's all this stuff, and I was learning how to do it with calipers, which is was a challenge for me. But between that and frankly your expert eye, looking at somebody's body, I think you had estimated that my body fat was somewhere around 30%, 25 to 30%, and it's now down to between 10 and 12%, which I'm just absolutely thrilled with. I mean, I'd always like it to be a little lower, but I mean, practically for me and my aesthetic and everything, I'm super happy with that whole thing.
If you look back when you started, did you think you would come out of this with a six-pack and so much weight loss?
No, I really didn't. I mean, I was very, very skeptical. I was like, all right, I might. I mean, again, you showed me picture after picture of client you had worked with, and I was like the CrossFit guy, Ryan and other folks, and I was like, all right, if I look half as good as some of these guys, 60 years old, I'm gonna be pretty satisfied. But no, I can honestly say I did not expect this kind of result. And now honestly, I'm like, man, what can I do to get to look a little leaner, to get my biceps a little more defined, something like that. And so now my mindset is like, what can I do to make this even better? When again, a year ago, I was like, if I get 50% of the results of some of these other clients, I'll be happy.
So you upgrade your standards as well.
Yeah, I really did. That's absolutely true.
It's great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've been super happy.
I'm really curious on something you said in the beginning and just now again. You're very skeptical. I remember that. What had you still join?
Ask me the question again. I didn't understand you.
You were very skeptical before starting,
Yes.
maybe even when starting. What had you still pulled the trigger and said, I'm gonna give this program a shot?
What caused me to do that?
What caused you to overcome that skepticism and still sign up for the program?
Got it. Yeah. Again, very good question. Sorry, I struggled to understand at first. So
I should have clarified it better. So
sure. Yeah. A couple of things. Again, I was just doing I would say really three things. One, frankly, just desperation, right? Because I mean, again, you're going to CrossFit 4 times a week, you're feeling like crap all the time. And I was like, how much more can I do on the physical end of this? I mean, at some point there's a practical limit to how much more you can do. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to try something new. Two, just do a lot of research on my own, and the blood work really interested me. But three, in doing my research and everything, I'm actually connected with somebody on LinkedIn that is that he's a recruiter in the same industry where I work, and that's how we've been connected. And I saw a comment from him on LinkedIn one day where he was like, hey, I just joined up with the Kinetic method with Mauro Stara, and so I started to I was like, wow, that's crazy. I just seen about Mauro on Google, and so I reached out to him a little bit and was talking to him, and he said he's a retired pro baseball player, so he's definitely got a better athletic history than I do, and he he said to me, again, he said, I have signed up with lots of coaches in my history. He said, Moro was the only guy that ever told me to start with my blood work. And he said that alone really sealed the deal for me, that I was willing to give this guy a try. And so I have his name's Jay. I have respect for Jay from our time in the industry together. And when he said that, which was the one thing that was kind of tickling my brain about what was different about you, I was like, all right, that's pretty encouraging. And then I was going back and forth with him, again, what about this? What about this? What about this? It's kind of my nature. And he said, listen, he said, the best advice I can offer you is, he's like, you've just got to get started. And so Jay, who is probably a more not so introspective and more of a jump first kind of a guy, I mean, that was actually the encouragement I needed from him. And so it's worked out great. And I have him to thank as well.
So let's switch roles and move to the last question. If you
Sure.
were Jay and Wes is listening to this interview a year ago, what would you tell all the Wes out there who are on the fence?
I would tell them that I would probably tell them that I'm very much like them. Again, I'm not a jump first. I may do all your research, try to understand everything before you make a move. But and then I would relate this story to them. And I would tell them that if anything, the biggest mistake I made is not doing this so much earlier. Again, I'm going to be 60. I'm very happy with where I'm at. But if I would have done this, 10 or 15 or 20 years earlier, what could I have looked like then? And that's what I would tell all those people, those other Wes's.
Awesome. Great advice. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you're super busy and always on the go and around. And so I appreciate you taking the time and filming this case study to share your experience with everyone else, and hopefully give them a lot of good insights here.
Yeah, absolutely. Very appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and everybody else, and really to encourage folks that if they're looking for some help, that this is a great resource.
Thank you, Wes.